Talk about love, baby.
Baby.
Let's talk about you and me. Yes, yeah. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. Our episode today is about love. The idea is to be alone this weekend and figure out something to do. Something.
Do you want to come to Sintra with me?
Sintra, no. I want to sleep and. Yeah, I'm not gonna commit. I might do something like Saturday night or something like that, or Sunday night, whichever night that the kids are not here. And then I'm just going to roam around in pajama and sleep and not do a thing. So
that's my plan. That's my same
good.
plan, except for writing. That's the only thing on the agenda.
You have no, you go writing. Me, I'm going to. Okay, I was gonna say something. I'm not going to about writing.
Get these.
Let's do it.
These ashy lips under control.
We all have ashy lips and ashy skin. Even mixed race kids have ashy skin. My boys have ashy skin, man. And their dad never sees that. I'm like, can you not see the ashy skin? He's like, no, I can't. I'm like, their skin is gray. It's gray. Oh my God, yeah. That's one of the things I think I'm gonna write it in my will. I hope not. God, I want to stay here as long as possible. I don't want to go. But yeah, it's one of those things I'm like, I have to make a list of that to make sure kids' bodies need to be creamed.
Yes. No, it's a real thing.
So let's talk about love here. Actually, my necklace is earlier.
It is okay.
Yes, love. I always wear this. So
okay.
I wanted to share this. My man got me this yesterday.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I love orchids.
Orchids.
So I have 2, and this is number 3.
Yay!
Yes,
I love them. But
I wasn't expecting. Actually, we're not. Even throughout the years, we're not very big on Valentine's.
Yeah.
But my 9-year-old is getting older and understands these things, and now starts asking him like, I don't care. It's the whole thing is very commercialized, but love is not commercialized. So
yes, I mean, I think that
let's get into it.
Yeah, I think it's a fun opportunity to just celebrate love.
Yes.
I mean, without going into the hype of how commercial it is, but I think it's a great opportunity to just like, why not? It's an excuse to celebrate love.
Yes, I sent my female friends yesterday messages or text messages saying Happy Love Day, because I think sometimes this whole idea is kind of been hijacked by coupledom. And this day it became like, oh, if you're not coupled, people feel sad. Oh, I'm on my own. Who am I going to spend? And I think feeling love and receiving love and being loved and being loved has nothing to do with whether you are tied to someone, whether you have a partner or not. I think regardless, we should all feel love and loved and love ourselves. So if there's no person next to you, why not do it for you? Buy something for you special. Spend time with your girlfriends. Yeah, people who love you, whether it's a family, friends, co-worker. Yeah. What about you? How did you spend your
It was good. I actually I went to do some I did decide I'm going to do things even though I had work I said I'm going to intentionally do things that connect me to love and that make me feel love. And I went to my horse riding class in the morning, which was fun. And then I went, browsing around to the stores a bit, and then some work in between that, and then met up with some girlfriends in the evening
Nice.
to have a little time together, a little food, a little drink, and it was fun. It was good. And I felt and the thing that I felt the most, I think that yesterday that I noticed the most was like it was so heartwarming, at least for me, like it's so heartwarming to see like men with like their gifts and like how proud of themselves they look when they're like carrying the
Like, I
flowers
got
or
it.
the
It's the day.
plant
I remember this day.
or the plant or like the whatever, they look like so proud of themselves and like so happy. And I'm like, especially like the younger, like when I see like a young boy with like one rose, I was like,
I saw those yesterday too. To be honest, mine was, okay, I received this early morning before my kids went to school, which was really great. And then, of course, I was picking up kids, dropping kids, running around, cooking, changing diapers. So that was the highlight of my love day.
Love in action, literally.
Yes. Love in action. Yesterday I had a really a deep conversation about actually it was about expectation.
Can you share a little bit about, obviously not the conversation, but
but the whole the theme, because it's universal.
Idea of this idea of expectation.
Yes. Basically, yesterday we spoke about expectation and what one expects from a partnership, from a relationship, and how we have a different expectation sometimes, even within the couple. As time goes by, I've been in my partnership with my partner for 12 years. So things progress, things change, as people, we change, we evolve, and our expectations change. Our, wants change. And it's important to kind of, sometimes you are forced to kind of look into these themes and rules because there's a need, and sometimes you just naturally kind of talk about. For us, there was a need, so we spoke about expectation, and how also this is another thing that we spoke about, which ties into the idea of love. And yesterday being St. Valentine's Day, is that how do we receive love and how do we give love?
Wow.
And it's important to touch base in these things because, as I said, with time, we evolve, people change. How I thought or how I perceived and wanted love 10 years ago is different today. Today is different from 10 years ago. And so as a person, you have different needs at different times of your life and different seasons of your life. And it's important to be checking on each other and kind of updating your needs and your expectations as time goes by, because if you don't do that, then you will hit a rock.
Absolutely.
And
are you go ahead, sorry.
Go. Ask
no,
me.
Are you familiar with the book The 5 Love Languages? It's like so old.
Yes, it's true. I I am familiar. I haven't read, but I've come across people talking about, on social media and stuff like that. But yeah, do you know, are you
Would
familiar with the
you?
book? Do you want to share?
Yes. Okay. So this book, which is called or titled "The Five Love Languages." I can't remember the author at the moment because it's been so long. Basically, the idea behind it is that uh, we all have specific ways in which we express love and specific ways in which we like to receive love. And that makes us feel loved, understood, nourished, emotionally nourished, and cared for. So the author kind of breaks them into five categories, which is, I think the categories are acts of service, or doing things for people, and people doing things for you. Um, Physical touch, quality time, gifts, whether that's gifting or receiving gifts. And what is the last one? Words of affirmation. So, having someone encouragement, verbal encouragement.
Yeah.
What would you say out of the five? And you can have a combination of the five, and having like kind of like some that are your primary.
My primary, I would say, act of service. And yes, I think my partner, I'm not going to speak for him, falls into one of the other categories. Category. For me, act of service, because I think as a mom, probably now, this is I'm saying now because I truly believe that as people, our needs change with time. We don't stay, stagnant, or we don't stay kind of the same and want the same thing all the time. So now I have two young kids that are under 10. And so for me, anytime I'm fully involved in their daily life and kind of that full motherhood role, is how I show up.
Yeah.
And so doing the house stuff, my partner yesterday was talking about, having your socks and your underwear kind of in a drawer in your cupboards. Like, oh, okay. I don't even think about how do they get here, So for me, these are the kind of things that I do, having a tidy house, or kind of the food kind of already sorted, thought through. This is now my role.
Yeah.
And of course, I would appreciate, and we all appreciate, words and being, affirmations and so from me serving, I think I do like, but sometimes even if I don't get to be honest, I just get so much satisfaction out of seeing that things are running smoothly. That like Monday, my son had a hospital appointment, and I had a reminder, but I don't know what happened to the reminder. I have no idea. Maybe I didn't set it up well. I completely forgot. Anyway, it was clashing with another program. He had a school program that was also important. So in any case, we would have to book. But at times like that, when like my act of service and kind of being on top of things, it's not perfect, and I don't remember something, or I miss something, I'm like, oh, nobody appreciates me. But no, I actually didn't say nobody appreciates me. But yeah, it was more like a personal thing that I was like, oh, you forgot this, because you forget all the other trillion things that you're doing that are running smooth, and then your mind goes straight to that one thing that you weren't able to accomplish or to achieve. So it's I guess within a couple there will always be times when one is doing 30 and the other person is doing 70, and then there will be times when one is doing 50 or 60 and the other is 40, or there's times when you're both doing 50-50. I guess it's never really a kind of a plain kind of mid kind of wavelength where everything is smooth. There's always somebody who's doing more in something, and then someone else is doing more on other things. And it's important to always acknowledge that and be aware of that and affirm.
Absolutely. No, I was having a conversation, I think it was last week, about the impact of culture, and how that influences what you witness, in certain countries and certain societies, of what the kind of like the assigned roles in the family unit. And both of us were saying, I mean, she's from America, and I came from America as well. How the first thing that we noticed when we moved here, was like seeing so many men, out with children, like on their own, like without the mom around. At least for me, in the position where I said, wait a minute, but like this is what it's supposed to be. like you're supposed to see men with their children. On their own, even without the mother around, and them, handling it, and being okay with spending alone time, because it's like, it's not one is, the mother is the primary figure or the main parent. And kind of like that, what you're describing about the percentage, that it's just like, yes, it varies and it kind of fluctuates. But I think that the thing that I was used to witnessing was, 98%. The woman is always giving the 98% within the family unit, and within the everyday of taking, looking after children, versus what I've noticed, throughout different countries in Europe, and how the involvement of both parents, and how that's distributed. So it's very so I found that very interesting when we were having that conversation. But to what you're saying, and also to what you're saying, this whole idea of the love languages, and really understanding of how at different points in our lives there are different things that make us feel loved. Like, I would say for me, similar to you, and I can totally, I'm like, of course, acts of service, I can totally see that in you. I would say that for me, I have a combination. I have a strong combination. I think that acts of service is one of, for me, I think that I take a lot of delight in doing things for people that I care for, and that I love. Whether that's, making food and delivering food and writing notes, and saying, how can I help you, and helping out in some, practical manner. I think that it's always come very natural to me, and I don't feel like it's not something that like makes me feel burdened, or feel like, oh, no, I'm who does anything for me. And it's satisfying to me, to see kind of like the joy that being helpful to someone brings to the person, and to me, and that itself brings me joy. And I would say, I think I'm a bit conflicted. Definitely, I would say quality time I think that the thing that makes me feel the most loved and nourished in terms of receiving is spending quality time, like one-on-one time, with people that I, care about and love. I think that to me, bonding through conversation, and not necessarily like, to me, I'm fine, like us, even if it's just like meeting and we're having a cup of tea and we're together in the same room and we're talking and sharing and spending, that physical time, like time in each other's physical presence. To me, that's very nourishing.
It's beautiful.
Emotionally nourishing, for sure. But I think that one is combined with like physical touch, which to me evolved over the years. Because for a very long time, and it wasn't actually until the pandemic that I realized that I had kind of like frozen out that way of feeling loved, which was, that has been physical touch. And I think that I kind of froze it out. I mean, for different reasons that I'm, not going to go into it at the moment now. But I think that also where I was living, I was living in New York City, and, it's like, it would be months, if I wasn't in a relationship, it was like, it would be months without like receiving a hug, even like in greeting. It's people are like, give you their hand, even if they're, friends. And
that's harsh.
It is. Or like, hi, and you don't like say, hug or kiss or anything. And it was so interesting because it was during the beginning of the pandemic, and when I moved, not during the beginning, I moved here, August of like 2020. I remember that I felt like so starved for like physical touch, and I didn't realize that until like I came here, and it was like, okay, I was meeting people, and you would kind of, even with the restrictions and things, you would kiss or you would hug when you saw someone. And it just felt so comforting, it felt like like water, like a warm water washing over me after a burdened day. And it was kind of like, it awakened that in me, and I really got in touch of like, wow, it's true, because I felt like I had to, for so many years, like really hold back, because culturally for me, it's just like, I'm speaking to you, we use our hands, we talk, we touch,
it's hit sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not good. I had to learn, actually, in Europe. I had to stop that. Seriously, I used to be like, boom. Like people go, what? Like, stop hitting me. I'm like, no, I'm not hitting you. I'm just playing with you. Like,
yeah. And to me, it was kind of like, I had to like hold your hands, Mariel. Like, don't touch people.
Oh my God.
And it was, and it's so, it was interesting, because it was this whole idea of like what it represents and how it bonds you with someone, that piece of physical touch. And when I say physical touch, I'm speaking to, because most people, when they think about physical touch, they think about, within the negative, sexual context.
Yeah, negative. No.
But more of that affection. I think physical affection became so important to me when I realized that was a part that I kind of froze out for so many years out of my life.
Wow. I didn't realize that this happens. Or at least, I don't know if is it particular for New York, because I lived in Italy. I'm from Somalia, so East Africa. I lived in Italy for many years. And from there, I went to the UK, and there's less physical. But the fact that I am a foreigner and has always been around people from different cultures. You always, I retain that. You always bond and have that hug and the kiss and the laughter and and the handshake and the fist bump or whatever. There's always been a physical
component. I mean, I can't generalize, because I think that most of my life or adult life it was in New York City. So I can't say, it's okay, all of the United States is like this, but I know that the experience, or the consistent experience has been that there's that piece of like physical space, creating a physical separation.
These things are very natural. Everybody hugging. I must say, sometimes a little bit over the top, especially when it comes to touching children. When you are in a public space, I find myself, I use public transport, and a lot of times I find myself trying to kind of protect and kind of without coming across as rude, but stopping people touching my children, because my elder actually doesn't like now. He's like, who are you? Don't. But it's very common here also to, senior citizens, or even people, not the young people, but definitely you'll see moms or women or dads kind of playing with the kid in on the bus, They'll start asking questions, playing with the kids. They also try to give you tips on how to parent, even in that moment. If your kid is distressed.
Unsolicited parenting advice.
Unsolicited parenting advice. If there's a distress moment, or the kid's having a tantrum, or they want something, or you're saying no, whatever situation, they'll try to intervene to say, do this and do that. And I kind of ignore. I don't even pay attention. But for me, the time that I kind of go, ooh, this is kind of going over the top, is when they try to physically touch the child. So that is something that I'm in a public space, a person you don't know. I'm really very conscious and kind of always try to limit that. And if they try to hold their hand, or let's say there's these seats when you're sitting in front of each other, and some people will try to kind of grab the child's hand, or kind of stick their hand out to, I'm like no, I don't say no, but I try to always stop that. So that's the only time that's a little bit over the top, but otherwise I think it's important to interact and to be affectionate, to be
but also like keeping in mind, that like the children, that they're their own person, because it's so interesting also how we as humans, we all feel comfortable with different degrees of things, right? Because I mean, a great example are my niece and nephew from my sister's side. My little nephew, she has a boy and a girl, and my little nephew, he's like a cuddle bear, He wants to be hugged and cuddled and touched, and if you're putting him to sleep, and you have your arm around him, he's like, can you squeeze a little tighter because I cannot feel your hug? I mean, he's like that type.
So nice.
He's that type. And we know that about him, and we kind of cater to him in that way. But my niece is completely the opposite. Like you go to hug her and she's kind of like stiff, like okay, can this hug end, please? And kind of like, no, okay, like it's because it's not her, it's not the way in which she likes to express, that she likes to have love expressed to her in physical affection. So it's kind of like right, like tuning into that. Okay, like it's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just like her style is very different. And she'll bond with you in other ways, but he's like, he would like plug a flower from the garden and come and like get on one knee and give it to you. He's like this.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's so nice. I hope he doesn't lose that. My youngest one, actually, out of the two, my eldest son is he's a hugger. He likes not a hugger as in he won't come for it a lot. Now that he's older, he's but he likes affection. My younger son, he says, abraço, 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 abraço. Tiny, like this little human being asking for hug, hug, hug. Dad, mom, dad. And his hugs are so famous. He hugs you so tight. He's only 2.5. I'm like, wow, you feel him. I'm not joking. My oldest son is like, gone. And this one, he would come and he will squeeze you. Often when I'm putting him to sleep, this is one of the things that he loves, and he would ask like 15 times. At some point I have to say, no, that's it, done. Now go to bed, seriously, because you try to put in and you're patting his back and caressing his back and trying to put him to sleep, and he'll be like, abraço, abraço. Okay, let's do one more. And then again, 1 minute later, another one. No, but now it's time for you to go to bed.
So cute, so cute.
Yeah, no, he's a hugger. We all notice his hugs.
So cute. No, he's so cute. Both of them are. So
generally speaking, kids are cute. But I wanted to add, I think the act of service, my act of service, just going back to the conversation, our conversation about love and how do we, receive and give love. I remember in I'm almost 50. Only recently I really learned how to separate, because I think sometimes when you're younger, these two mix and are kind of intertwined. Act of service and people pleasing.
That's a big one.
Because in thinking that this is how you show up, sometimes it can go over to then become this, a people pleasing, where you are doing things because you just want to please people. You just want to do things for them. And now I know the difference. And as much as I am, I give love as act of service. I know when to stop also. I know when to say no. It's over my limit. I've reached, I've given, and this is how much I'm able to give.
Yeah.
And this is how much I cannot give.
Yeah.
And it's I feel really wonderful to be like this, because I was huge. I was addicted to people pleasing, and I think culturally comes from my culture. It comes also from my family and how I was brought up, and kind of always constantly giving and doing, and then it becomes something that's part of you, and you keep
and
going.
what would you say changed that? Like, what made you realize and
exhaustion? You become exhausted, and at some point resentful. And when I realized that this act of giving and this act of giving that's crossed a boundary was something that was harming me. It was not something that was good for me.
Wow. Yeah, it's huge. I think that differentiation, because we shared that we have the same kind of like love language, and uh, I can relate to what you're sharing about the people pleasing, which is so connected. I think that for me at least was so connected to like, and it was so interesting because I never saw myself or defined myself as a people pleaser, because I said, oh, I'm not into following the crowd. I'm not into for so many years, but it was like in ways that it would just like sneak in, in ways of essentially like trying to, through this whole thing, and we've talked about this before, of like this whole idea of being nice. And
my God, I know that.
this whole idea of being nice, or wanting to be perceived, under that way. It really, I think that over the years, it was kind of like my unconscious way of trying to like somehow meet my emotional needs, and trying to get, for people to, in a way, like reciprocate. And I think that what I also had to learn was really finding people that have compatible love styles with you. I think that it was a very tough lesson for me to learn that, of like finding people that, and even if they're not like, even if they have a different love language than you do, the importance of it being someone that's self-aware enough that they would take the time to learn what it is that makes you feel heard, understood, supported, loved, and nourished, so they can be intentional about showing up in that way in the relationship. And I think that for me, that was a very tough journey, because I kind of would position myself or enter in all of these different friendships and romantic dynamics where that wouldn't be the case. So I would end up in these relationships that felt in a way one-sided. And it wasn't necessarily, I mean, some were just like plain one-sided, one-sided. But a lot of the situations, it was more of like, I wasn't aware of how that person expressed their love, and what, and them not being aware of what made me feel loved and nourished and supported. Or also being in the situation where they were like simply not interested in, like, okay, I've learned this about you, but I am how I am, and I can't show up like that for you. And I think that it's such a different feeling. It's such a different feeling from being in a situation where you feel recognized, because it's almost like or that your needs, it's such a different experience to feel like when my needs are recognized, and they're being and someone holding space and showing up in that way for you, versus not. And it was so connected to self-worth, of like feeling like, maybe I'm just this, maybe I'm just the giver in the relationship, maybe I'm just the thoughtful one in the relationship. Maybe I'm the only one that pays attention to detail in relationship. And it's a dance, it's a conversation. And I heard in a podcast episode once, I really liked, I think it was in the Goop, there was the person that they were interviewing, she said, it's like when you come into a relationship, whether that's a friendship or romantic, it's just like there's this period of discovering, It's like two people that speak two foreign languages, even if you speak the same language, but your heart and your mind and your bodies speak, are playing to completely different tunes. And there's that discovery, that time to take that to discover, like how do I align, and how do I resonate, and how do we learn to, play to each other's tunes in a way.
And going back again, yes, to us changing, and as human beings, as people developing and evolving. When we enter, I can actually identify with what you said about being nice, because I have been. I'm stating again, I've been I'm in my relationship for 12 years now, and I remember when I entered and when I started this relationship and all the other relationships before this one, I had this pride about me being a nice person. Yeah. I showed up and presented myself as a nice person. And even in my current relationship, I remember for the first years, always in any argument saying, but I am easygoing. And trust me, easygoing. I was like, okay, easygoing. No, I'm not easygoing anymore. I am not easygoing anymore. I have demands. I have and throughout I had to learn, and throughout I changed, not changed as a person, but I evolved. And as we were saying earlier, both were talking about earlier, our needs change as we change, as we grow up in different seasons of our life, our needs change. And so I had to sit with myself and actually examine, what does it mean to be easygoing? What's easy? And in all honesty, there's no easy in any relationship. Unless you really want to just deny your needs and just please the other person. And that's, again, the easygoingness came from the people pleasing. The I am nice person came from the people pleasing. And all of that throughout, I had to kind of learn about myself and become to a place, and I'm still a work in progress. But right now, I feel that emotionally, as a woman, because I've been in my 20s as a, living in Europe. I've been in my 30s, in my 40s, now in my late 40s. Emotionally, I think this is the most stable, fulfilled, calm I've ever been. And I remember in my 20s when I spoke to older women and they said, oh my God, wait until you're in your 40s. You'll just be a completely different person. You'll evolve and, things don't bother you anymore. Or it's not that they don't bother you, you just don't pay attention. That's that's what you learn. Because when you are in your 20s and 30s and there's any young woman listening to this, please do know that you're going to change, that you're going to learn, that you're going to mature as a person and emotionally mature, that some things will not have value and will not add value into your life, and you'll learn. This is a life journey. You can start doing the work now and start to kind of understand yourself, but as time goes by, as the years go by, as seasons change, you're going to have different needs. And I've had different needs, and from wanting to get pregnant and become a mom, I
Mm-hmm.
was a different person. I wouldn't say a different person, but I had different needs then.
Yeah.
I needed a different attention. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I had miscarriages and lost some pregnancies again,
Mm-hmm.
that's a different season of
Yeah.
me. Now that I'm a mom and I have kids and I have responsibilities, different responsibilities, I'm a different different season of my life, and I have different needs and demands.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the easygoing, nice Saadia
No
evolved.
more.
No more. Yeah, she's not there. No, she's not
She's
there.
not
I am
available.
actually,
Hello.
yeah, yes. I think
Not
generally
available.
speaking, I am still that person, but it has now that easygoingness has turned into a kind of, it's not a condition, but a kind of terms of sharing and
Well, and easygoing doesn't mean easygoing doesn't mean I don't have needs. You know, easygoing doesn't mean I don't have expectations or standards of how I would expect to engage with another person. Um, and I think that with as you were speaking, I was thinking about I think that part of there's so much talk around if this person doesn't X, Y, and Z, then and I think it's very more of like modern, modern culture of like, if this doesn't work, if you can't give me what I want, I'm out of here. And it's so important to truly assess, like what exactly does that mean, and where is that coming from, right? Because it's just like there's this idea that if someone's a friend, that they have to show up in all of these different ways and have to fulfill all these different needs that sometimes are just humanly impossible to fulfill, especially if the demand is coming from, I cannot give this to myself, so I'm going to go out there and try to like extract that from other people. And if
you're going to contract, basically, you're going to
and
get
it's like,
you're going to contract someone else to fulfill that too.
Exactly. And it's like, and if you don't, then I don't want you in my world, I don't want your energy, or I'm not available for that. And I think that and there's this idea of like really treating and more, and I think I see it with younger people. I think that I'm all for emotional well-being. I'm all for being in relationships that are balanced and that are healthy. Of course, we're not suggesting in any way, shape, or form, go into some harmful situation and they'll find a way to meet your needs. Like, no, if a person is unhealthy in how they show up, and has an inability, right, to show up for themselves in a way that's healthy, balanced, right, they're obviously not going to have the ability to show up for you in those ways. And it's kind of like being able to recognize that, when there's a pattern there, which you can only truly see when you give yourself enough time to get to know someone. I think that that idea of which to me, I think I always say, I'm a little bit old school when it comes to romance and relationships, because I do really believe in taking my time and establishing a friendship with someone. If I'm interested, if I'm considering them as okay, this could be a person that I see myself with, or this could potentially be a candidate, or can they be, a candidate for engaging and taking this in another way? But I really think that you can only see people's patterns by relating to them.
Yes.
And, it's not something, I think that, yes, sometimes there's that time where energetically, you pick up that something's off very easily, especially if you're very intuitive, or you're very
In tune.
in tune with yourself. You can easily recognize, like, there's something here in the energy that's a bit, something's off here, or something's not clear. But again, it's just like, okay, you make a mental note of that, but you give yourself the opportunity to get to know someone. If that desire to get to know each other is mutual. And I think that truly, when thinking about community and thinking about having quality friendships and people in your life where you feel like, I know that I have a support system in place, or it's, again, like taking that time of getting to know each other, like what is your pace, and what are your expectations, and what are your needs, because I have been in situations where, and this is within the friendship context, where I felt like I was getting to know someone as as a friend, and I remember, there were so many things that I felt were wonderful about this, particular person. And it wasn't like romantic, it was, another female. And but I remember that there was this thing of this, she was in a space in her life where she needed, like 3-hour phone conversations to work through her feelings and things, and how triggered she was feeling every time, she was kind of like dating someone and it was new, and she had like all these needs that at some point I said, I don't think that I have the emotional bandwidth to really engage in a relationship that requires this much of me, this much of my time, just logistically. And I know, that of course, with people that I have in my world that have been, friends for, a bit longer, because this was relatively new. We all have those moments where we need someone to be on the phone with us, for whatever long, 2 hours, whatever it is, 3 hours, or, meet up and cry and,
Laugh,
do all the things, laugh, cry, and do all the things. But I think that I was able to identify, like, wait a second, there's something here that she needs that, first of all, I'm like not even qualified to provide to her. Like, I think that this needs to be addressed like with a therapist, not me, not a friend. And it's like that idea of being able to identify of like, okay, maybe what I'm going through right now needs, a very specific type of support that is not for a friend to carry or to deal with. And I think that if we're able to, okay, I'm getting the support, whether it's a therapist, some sort of practitioner that you work with, that helps you work, a coach that helps you work through those patterns and holds space for you in that way, then yes, your friends can support you, as you go through that process and check in with you, how are you doing and that. But this expectation of like, I need to, like, unconditionally, you need to show up for me unconditionally.
No, even within romantic, I think it's you cannot show. I mean, you will show up unconditionally with your romantic partner, but if it also gets to this space that you're talking about, this experience that you're talking about, where they're not able to handle certain emotional triggers, and you're not able to support them fully, even with your loved romantic partner will have to go and seek help, professional help, therapy, in a space where that is available and is there for them, and then you do the other part. You basically support, and it does not become something that's overwhelming and kind of takes over you, or something that you're not able to manage or handle. And it's important, even within with your romantic partner, to be able to be honest. One of the things that I learned throughout these years is really how much honesty is important in a romantic, in a platonic friendship, but more so in a romantic. Even in a romantic, you have to learn how to say, this is too much for me. I am not able to be there like this.
Yeah.
And in my, actually, one of the things that as a coach, I use Ubuntu, and for me, Ubuntu represents this. It has nothing to do with, I'm not talking in this context, romantic relationship, but in a platonic friendship also, it's important to create these spaces and friendships that are different, and that can hold different spaces for you.
Yeah.
I have different groups. There are groups that I go for really heart-to-heart talk and kind of let it all out. And these are friendships I've had for like 20 odd years. It's not somebody I just met. No, it's a really strong, amazing friendships that I cherish. But I know that with this person or this group, I can go for this. I can go to them with this. And with this person and this group, I can go with this. And so you kind of spread out your network and also your needs. And like that, it doesn't become too heavy. And if it becomes too heavy, obviously, in whatever situation or you are in, whether it's a platonic friendship or a romantic relationship, you have to go and seek help. I have a therapist. I right now I'm seeing a therapist, and it's important to have that space, because even separate from my partner, I have a therapist. I go and express my frustrations, whatever I'm feeling, my emotional uncertainties, and it's a space there for me to be able to work out things and to then come back to whatever situation that's causing me some discomfort and be able to sit and say, hey, this is what it is, this is how it is. But you have to allow yourself to do the work and to learn and to be with yourself and to learn and kind of accept those natural intuitive abilities that you have and harness them so that they can serve, these energies can serve you better and yes, and kind of give you a life experience that's kind of whole, that's full.
Absolutely. And it isn't, I mean, and again, back to the friendship piece, it isn't like, oh, then I can't, share this with a friend if I'm like feeling really challenged, because I think that many times I know for me, like I've been in situations where speaking to a friend has been, opening up to a friend about a struggle or something that feels very heavy for me, has been kind of like the first step to uncovering, like, or even recognizing, like, oh, this is there. But with the consciousness of like, I know that, or I can also recognize that like this needs a deeper look into it. That, and it's not necessarily this person's job or responsibility to help me sort that through, which again is just like about that balance. But not only that, but also checking in with the person, right? Because it's just like, I have, I've had friends over the years that's just like, yes, they did, and were open and did have the emotional bandwidth to be there by my side while I was really living through some, uncovering some traumatic things and things that felt very heavy and very overwhelming. And they were open and willing and able to go, to be very involved as I went through that process. But I also, over the years, have people that are also, also living through their own set of personal, really heavy, challenging things. And it's kind of like really, it's so important to check in, and specifically when we're thinking about, oh, I'm dealing with trauma, right? Because it's like even partners, I know, like a partner is not a therapist. Even, there's this whole idea of like, oh, my partner is supposed to be my best friend, and and they're supposed to be my lover too, and they're supposed to be the person that
they
knows
need to be there all the
everything
time for
about
me. Yes.
And they need to be there all the time for me, and they need to be my first, listening ear. And not that I don't think, at least for me, in my world, I think that isn't the preference that I have. And I don't think that's, I don't find that to be balanced, because it's like putting this massive expectation. And also it's so interesting, right? I read this book that actually my therapist recommended. It was things about, it's a classic, it's like super, I mean, it's like ancient book. No, it's not ancient, it's pretty old, a few years. Secrets of a Man That Every Woman Should Know. And
I don't know, I missed that one.
And this book, I mean, what I found fascinating about, at first, when she recommended it in this topic, and this title was like, oh, I don't know about this topic. Like, I don't know about this title. Like, it sounds so cheesy. I mean, but I really trust her. And she's so wise, and my work with her has been, there's the before and after, of how I am.
Yeah.
And I really trust her.
That's so good to find a therapist like that. Is so good.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're able to do the work and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like, what? I'm downloading the book and I'm reading this, and I loved that the author took the time to speak to how different communication styles are between men and women, or between female and masculine energy. And one of the things that she said, and this, like, just reading this line, like, really transformed so much about my own personal relationships. Because the thing that she shared, she said, women, or female energy, thinks about details and is about getting in tune with emotion. So how do you get in tune with emotion? With story. So you give a story when you have a problem, and you describe it, and you think about, go through the details of the event, of the thing, And there you are sitting and explaining, and and the thing that
And
she
then
said, like
that's when
male,
man is going,
but she said,
what happened then?
male energy, or men, she said, are really solution driven, and like kind of, and really like bigger picture, like, okay, so how do I help you, and how do what is it that you need? They're not interested in the details. They're not interested in, like I was walking in the bus and this lady screamed at me, and then I felt so invalidated, and then it brought up this trauma, when I was 6 years old, and my crash, this whole thing, and it was I laughed so hard when I read that, because I said, oh my goodness, because I immediately thought about the men that I did have in my world at that time. And I said, I remember how offended I was, or I felt, when I had, a male mentor and friend that I had. When every time we would meet, I remember when we first, started talking, he would say, "Oh, can you send me an agenda about what we are going to talk about?" And I felt so offended by that. I was like, "What?" Like sending you an agenda? Like, I'm a friend. I have a, we have a problem here. Like, what do you know? And it was so fascinating and so interesting, right? When I read that, because I said, oh my goodness, he wanted to be prepared to
offer a solution,
able to offer solutions. And here I was, like taking this personal, like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person?
It's incredible, because this happens to me all the time. Actually, my partner says, I come in with the story, I'm like, and he's like, do I have to do something? Like, do I have to do something now? Do I have to do something now? Like, no, it's been resolved, but listen, the whole story. We'll get to this end. Because I'm telling him something dramatic, or some kid fell, or whatever, our children, especially if it's our children. He goes, do I have to do something now? Am I going to hospital now? Like, no, I'm just telling the story. It's like, okay.
No, it is like, and
the title did, when you just mentioned the title now, I was like, yeah, it's the kind of book that I'm not going to read.
No, I mean, I would have never in a million years picked up that book. Like, if I went and I saw that and it was, like, €1, I would have not picked up the book, because I would have automatically thought, like, oh, it's just like some, how to manipulate a man kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm not, I'm not interested in that.
So true. I often, like, really, this is one of the biggest, now we know each other because we've been together for a long time. Yes. But trust me, even now, he says, is there something I need to do? I'm not joking. When I'm telling some dramatic story, something I need to do. And if I say, no, you don't need to do anything, he's like, okay, no problem. Go through the book. Give me all the chapters, then you'll give me the conclusion.
It's like, what is the summary? Give me the summary. And tell me, like, is there an actionable step that I need to
quickly? Yeah, because this is here? Like dramatic. And this is, I'm not joking, this is like really my everyday life. And I also, because it used to frustrate me whenever he said this, I would be like, but you're not listening to me. Wait, I will tell you.
I was like, you're so insensitive.
Wait, I'm gonna get there.
You're like, you're not emotionally, you're not in tune with your emotions. You're not emotionally available to me.
Why are you rushing me? Wait. And now I know that it's like he's been triggered by this story, and he's like, there's something needs to be done. What am I doing? And when he asks, I go, no, not to. You don't need to do anything. And then he's like, okay, so now tell me tell me chapter by chapter.
No, it is, it's so funny because it's like, it's so real. And I remember how life-changing that was, like just knowing, because I remember how I would tense up, of like, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me, you're not available to me, like, come on, how? And once I had that information of like, also knowing, like the timing of like when you're here to deliver this, massive emotional story to someone, it's just like, are you doing this, when after a long day of work, when the person is exhausted? And I remember there's this other book that I read something, it's just like the title of the book is it left me at the moment. People skills. Mm-hmm. People skills, how to assert yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's fabulous. I mean, this book,
that's a good book,
was life-changing, and I received it from my mentor, Emma, when I first started working with her. And I remember I was like, it was such a life-changing book because it gives you really practical, like step-by-step things of like, how do you communicate your needs in a way that gets your point across without being without aggression, and kind of like removing the emotional charge around it. And I remember that one of the things, or one of the suggestions that the author offered was a piece of communicating to people when you are ready, or if you are not ready to speak. And he gave this example of like walking in after a day of being outside of home and communicating, if there was anyone in the home, saying, hey, because he said the first thing that people want to do when you walk through the door, for the most part, is like, how was your day? Mm-hmm. How are you feeling? Tell me.
But then there's expectation about that answer, because often people expect, it's good. And if you come in with, wait a second, I have a story for you. And then it's like,
Yes. And it was so interesting because he said, most people want to, it's like, there's a person that's already, if they're already in the home and they've had some time to just like, be in the space and be with themselves. And then there's a person that's coming and removing themselves from, being out there, being surrounded, whether they're, whether that was driving or coming, taking a bus or whatever. And kind of like the stress that creates. And you coming, it's like the person really is not ready to engage in a conversation, or really, and if you are not, and you feel like, I just need a moment of silence, or I just need a moment to just like arrive, like saying that, like, I'd love for us to connect, and he suggested different ways of like, you can have a conversation about like, okay, when I arrive, I just like, I need 5 minutes just to myself to just like, wash the day away. And then I'm happy to connect and for us to talk and check in with each other and see how the day went. And it was so, and to me that changed so much, because I remember I would feel so frustrated when that would happen to me. I remember before reading that, of like arriving home and having this like, let's talk now, give me your attention now. When I was like, I've been talking all day, like the last thing that I want to do is engage in another conversation. And I had to learn that about myself and kind of like what works for me, what works for the people in my world, and where is the compromise and where is the agreement.
Yes, I think it's really important. I mean, for me, I learned that through practically living with sharing life and home with someone. And also I remember when I was young, or I've been in a couple of long-term relationships before this one, and in my 20s and 30s, and I definitely was. I remember feeling frustrated when I was the person who's at home and the other person comes, and you just want them to share everything, and they're like, oh. But nowadays, being in a long relationship, it's actually completely, totally fine to come in and say, give me a moment. And we actually don't even have another question after that. They're like, done. You said it. There's no even like, no. Give me a moment. Okay. And it happens it happens to both of us, and we both say. And also, I think when you have children, to be honest, you also become aware of quiet moments and having time to yourself moment, and you both respect that.
Yes.
The times that you have, that you are able to kind of take a moment to naturally. When was it? Even, just this week it happened that my partner said, I've just arrived, because I was at home, prepared dinner, everything, and then he brought the kids from school, and I was like, here, now feed this one, and this one gets this one, and he was like, just give me a moment, I need 5 minutes to, because when you're working all day and then you come in, I was like, I just need a moment, and I don't even question. I'm like, okay, cool, everything, I just prepare things, and I know that when he's ready, he will come and deal with that.
Yeah. Well, and so much I think about communication, and about having, it's like creating openness in relationship, or creating an environment where the people in it feel like they can show up honestly, or show up, authentically.
Yes.
Is what they're met with, right? Of like being met with, am I being met with maturity, or am I being met with someone that's still at a level where, they're triggered, and their, trauma response is activated,
annoyed,
in every situation, which I know, at least, for me, in my own personal journey, like becoming an effective communicator and becoming a balanced communicator has been a journey, because I felt like, for me, I was kind of like, well, first of all, I was unaware, right? Like that certain things were just like trauma responses. And it's just like anything that resembled situation, that like from the past really would kind of like to the forefront bring this immaturity, it's just like bring up, a little girl that would like throw a tantrum. And get into a place of like, no, you're not giving me this, like I'm going to, then if I'm going to do this to get you to do this. And I remember it was so interesting, because I thought in my, I thought I was so mature, but I had these moments that it was like almost like I don't recognize who that is, and why am I being taken to showing up in that way. And then, right, the guilt and the shame that you feel afterwards when you kind of like come back to your senses and you're like, okay, I'm like my grown-up self again. And if you create an environment where you are able to identify, like, okay, so what are the things that trigger me? What are the things that make me feel not loved or not listened to, not seen, not understood? And what are those things for my friend or for my partner? Because within that, right, it's just like you can create a container where you do offer empathy and you do offer compassion instead of, judgment when that little, girl shows up or when that little boy, shows up and tries to, like defend himself from, when he's receiving darts of the wrath of the day. And again, it's just like that takes time. It takes authenticity, and it takes mainly taking responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially for authenticity and taking responsibility, I think if you haven't done, and I think when I'm speaking about these spaces is because it's with experience that you really learn. And the authenticity comes from you accepting who the other person is. That's number one. And number two, responsibility. I think in a lot of our younger selves, I think we have a lot of ego. And if you really don't do and check on your ego, and if you don't do work about understanding ego, even the trauma triggers, sometimes it's not about the trauma and the thing that triggered you, that reminded you. It's more about why not me? Why not now?
Yes.
And that's often ego. It's your other self feeling offended that you did not get the attention you wanted, the way you wanted, because maybe you got the attention, but it was a wrong way. And so if you start doing ego work, and I think when you are in coupledom, it forces you to do ego work, because ego cannot exist. It's just at the beginning, the fluffy part of the relationship that ego can survive. After that, poof, like you're peeling skin, after one skin, one after the other, and then you'll get to the true self, and that true self needs to be accepted, loved, shown compassion, and you have to do the same for the other person. And then you are able to show up as authentic selves and know that when your partner says not now, he or she is not saying not now because I don't want to speak to you, but not now, truly I cannot give you this space that you need and this attention that you need right now. And it has nothing to do with me not liking you, or not respecting you, or not valuing you. It's to do it, not the time, the moment not being right for me to be in that space for you.
Absolutely. And it is so, but again, I think it really takes so much courage, to go there. And I think it's easier to not, and to just say, this is not working for me, I'm out of here.
Relationships are hard. Relationships are hard. Seriously, it's so easy to leave, to go. Just go. It's the work is in staying and evolving.
Yes. And being open and allowing yourself to be changed and to be transformed through the relationship.
Yes.
Because, and again, we're not speaking here about, staying in something that's harmful in any way, shape, or form.
No.
We're not.
If there's a violence, if there's abuse, I think those are the times when nothing can
whether that's physical or emotional or psychological. Yes.
Yeah.
And but it's about like that. I think that's part of living with an open heart. Am I willing to allow myself to be changed, transform, and to grow through the experiences that I'm living through?
I agree with you. I also in this space, and I think probably we're finishing this wonderful topic about love. I must say I have to credit the person that I shared life with for pushing me to go to these places, because I think I think I started with at the beginning of our conversations, I started by saying, I really was not, I come from a household culture where expressing yourself and your opinions and your emotions outwardly is not something that I was brought up with. And I really did not know. So I did a lot of work on myself, and that's credit to me. But I know that also if my partner was not a person who poked and kind of was there to this to happen, I think I wouldn't have been able to do all the work that I have done. So I think it takes two to tango.
Yeah. And I think should we?
Yes.
We can leave it
I think
there.
love yourself, love others.
Yes.
And hope we see you in love. I mean, be love.
Yes, absolutely.
See you next time. So nice, actually. It's such a nice.
You're some kind of butterfly.